The Ahmed Kathrada Foundation and several other civil society groups are calling on the public to demonstrate their anger against COVID-19 corruption by donning an orange mask every Friday. The hashtag Orange Mask Fridays campaign forms part of a broad societal effort to halt graft. For more on this, we're joined by Ahmed Kathrada Foundation's Neeshan, Balton. Neeshan, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Let's talk about the symbolism of the color orange.
Well, thank you very much. The color orange is really symbolic of the orange overalls that we think those who have, once they are found guilty of COVID-19 corruption, should be wearing when they are behind prison bars.
And how has the campaign been received? I know that it's been a few weeks running now. How have South Africans received it?
Well, this campaign was initiated by the Active Citizens Movement in Durban. It has since now been adopted by over 63 organizations nationally. And this coming Friday will really be the kick-off nationally for this campaign by all of the organizations who have signed the particular statement that has now gone out. So it has had good traction in Durban. And we are sure that it will have similar kind of appeal nationally from this coming Friday onwards.
And you look at, some of the reports that we've been seeing around COVID-19 corruption. I mean, just today, newspapers leading with a story that says that some of the masks have really failed to meet their test, and thus putting some of, those in the front line at risk.
Very much so. So it's the issue of poor quality, it's the issue of overpricing, it's the issue of people who actually got the tenders who had no experience in actually producing the kinds of equipment that were required. And all of this, I think, was flagged by the Auditor General in his report to Parliament last week, indicating, I think, the scale and the magnitude of this problem. And primarily, it has put people's lives at risk. It has robbed many of the hungry and the poor from receiving food that they should have been entitled to. So we think that this is a crime that people need to be brought to justice for, and who must see the back of prison bars wearing the orange overalls that we are calling for.
And when one looks at some of the institutional problems that we have seen in the past, there really hasn't been much in terms of convictions. And really that seems to be one of the problems that has led to, some of those that have been accused of corruption, and even some of those that have been found guilty, to be emboldened, because there really is no end result.
No, that is true. But I think we are encouraged by recent signals of assets being frozen. The forfeiture unit has moved with speed. I think many more companies have been flagged. Investigation seems to be speeding up a bit more thoroughly and cohesively than they've ever been. And this, we think, is as a result of societal pressure and outrage, which needs now to be stepped up. And the demands for transparency, accountability, and consequences, I think, has been made, but now needs to be seen across the length and breadth of South Africa.
And what are some of the conversations that are taking place behind closed doors as these organizations are coming together to try and ensure really and put up the pressure to ensure that those who are behind this are brought to book, apart from just wearing orange masks?
So some of this stuff happening is how to strengthen whistleblowing, how to ensure that particularly public servants, the good, honest public servants, are called upon to see whistleblowing as an act of national service, and to help in the fight against corruption by exposing those in the private and public sector who have been behind this huge scale of COVID-19 funds that we have seen, mindful that this is a carryover from decades of corrupt practices, which have now seeped into almost every layer of government and many sectors of the private sector. So I think that behind the scenes there's work being done to call public servants to assist. Secondly, there's work being done to analyze a lot of the reports that are coming through. And lastly is an attempt being made to look at when people are identified and companies identified and find a way of monitoring all of that up until the time that they are prosecuted and brought to book and hopefully got to be behind prison bars. Because civil society at times, we would tend to make a noise and then that noise dissipates when we see a semblance of action. But I think what we are calling for now is a sustained period of societal mobilization up to the 9th of December, which is International Anti-Corruption Day. And if by then we don't see serious action that has been taken, it will simply mean that 2021, this kind of societal mobilization would have to continue well into 2021 until we see the kinds of results that we are all calling for.
And let's talk about the importance of the protection of whistleblowers, as you alluded to in your earlier point, because this has really been an area of concern where some of the whistleblowers that have really blown the lid of some of the massive corruption in the country are appearing to be sidelined, even their own lives at risk. What can be done here to ensure that those that come forward with such information are protected?
Well, this is a point that we made directly to the President when the SACC and the Foundation's collective met with him and the ANC leaders last week. And we were simply saying that we think, one, the legislation needs to be reviewed. Protection for whistleblowers must come from the highest office in the land. And lastly, from the President's office in particular, whistleblowing and the status of whistleblowing must be enhanced to that of being one of national service. And we think it is when that kind of signals are made that firstly information will flow freely, the kinds of harassment of whistleblowers will stop, particularly if whistleblowers know that they have direct access to the highest office in this land to report pressure that they are being put under by either their political superiors or people from the private sector to do things that are irregular and unlawful. And unless that kind of culture and mindset changes to how we see whistleblowing, I think that those are really some of the key areas of recommendation. We know that whistleblower organizations like OUTA, Corruption Watch, and Sylvia Stimple have been doing a huge amount of work, and we would encourage other whistleblowers to use those existing mechanisms while we still try to strengthen the legislation and other reporting systems that still need to be put in place.
And as a final question, I know you say that, of course, just like, other people have been saying that law enforcement agencies are starting to find their voice, they're being strengthened. We are seeing frozen accounts. We are seeing, some people really answering some tough questions. Are you confident that this is going to result in convictions and people, wearing orange overalls, as you are calling for?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic because I think we're seeing the right signals, we're seeing the right noises. But I'm more so optimistic because I think society as a whole has come to understand that its voice and pressure needs to be intensified on this issue. Because there's just too much at stake and at risk if we don't attend to the issue of the extent and pervasiveness of corruption in this country.